Greetings, adult collectors. I am Crash the Customizer. Welcome to another custom Transformers showcase. This is my custom Transformers Prime Beast Hunters Optimus Prime. So this is the official Transformers Prime Beast Hunters Optimus Prime figure, but I just tried to do what I could to make it a little more show accurate. And the major thing, of course, I actually did was gave him a more show accurate head the best I could, because originally this figure had this super weird face that did not look like Optimus Prime. It had this weird scowling face that never once saw Optimus Prime make that face. I don't know what they were going for there, but this wasn't right. So I ended up using the Transformers Gamer Edition Optimus Prime head because it kind of works. It's better than what I had on originally, obviously. So it is actually on a ball joint, and this is actually from a Mega Constructs piece, and then it's attached in a toothpick that I stuck through where the original bar piece was. And then, of course, I added these little jumper plates here, and then this little like grill piece to kind of add some detail, kind of thicken up that part a little bit. So I cut off these little spikes that were sticking off that was not show accurate. Tried to paint it best I could. Tried to paint some of these details in. Painted some silver around this, and then just kind of added some just small details. So of course, I added the typical posable hands I do a lot of my figures, and just pegs on using this little piece here. Of course, you can get him in all the poses you need to get him in. These do pop off pretty easily, but they at least do the job. And then, unfortunately, I couldn't really find a way to actually put the smokestacks on the back, or even have the wheels be back here, because technically the smokestacks would be about here, and then they're supposed to be like the wheels are supposed to stick up back here, but there's not really a way to do that. So I wasn't able to get it perfectly accurate, but I got about as accurate as I can get it. I also added these little pieces here, and these are some blasters from the, I always forget what these are called, the Constructabots, basically like a bionicle version of a Transformer, and these actually look a lot more like the actual things that are on this back here for his little jetpack. And of course, the wings are still able to be splayed out, so we'll go ahead and give him his wings. So now Optimus Prime can fly in his jetpack. And one thing I have noticed to make this a little easier for actually being able to move his arm more, if you stick this section back like this, obviously you don't look quite right, but it at least kind of allows you a little more movement with his arms, because otherwise with this in the way, his arm can't go back any farther. But, you know, so I did actually also make him a weapon here. So I tried to make the little, like, mini gun thing he had, or Gatling gun, or whatever you want to call this thing. And I have no idea what this piece here is from, this whole section here. This is something my nephew gave me like years ago, and I don't really know what this is. I just thought it looked cool, and so he gave it to me. And then I added these Lego pieces, this little piece here, and these little things here. Of course, it's supposed to have this little blue studs that shoot out, but I lost all those. But he basically sticks into his hand just by kind of grabbing the sections around this little handle here, which I believe was another Constructabot piece, if I'm not mistaken. So just kind of collapse it around his hand. Let's see. And there we go. Now he has his little, I guess you call this a Gatling gun. I also, of course, have the Star Saber here, but this is from the Prima Prime figure, which isn't actually show accurate, but it at least can kind of work. And I made this little other fist here. This is actually a fist piece I made to actually hold these kind of things, and it basically uses the same kind of assembly as this, except it's just actual closed fist. I think this was from a Ironhide figure. I think anyway. and then I attach it on this, and you can just, of course, stick that in there. Now it's got the Star Saber. And this is a figure that actually can transform with the hands, which we'll get to in a moment. First things first, we'll go ahead and bring in some comparisons here. So here he is with Ratchet. Here he is with Bulkhead and Bumblebee. Here he is with RC. Here he is with his first version. Just because here he is with his animated version. And last but not least, here he is with Megatron. Now to get Optimus Prime into his vehicle mode, first thing we need to do is push down these little sections here, which I did also put a little nail through here and just cut off the tip, basically act as a pin, because I didn't like how these just pop right off. I don't know why they couldn't have put a pin in this, but they did that with a lot of Prime figures, not putting pins in what they should have, but easy fix. So then, go ahead and open up these sections here and just kind of get them out of the way and pull this section down. And then his head is just going to come down, just like this. And then we're going to take his arms, kind of bring them forward like this. And then untab it from what is the mirror. And then his shoulders will just kind of fold in right where his head is. Just kind of like that. And we'll go ahead and bring his fists, just kind of turn them around. And just basically collapse them up like this. So they're basically just made into fists. Once we got everything lined up like that, then we just take his whole waist, rotate it around, and it will basically do this. Then go ahead and tab his legs together, flip his feet in, or his heels into his feet. Fold this section down. This is where it gets a little tricky because you gotta try to get this lined up correctly where it actually will roll, and that can be a little difficult, but we'll get there. So go ahead and just tab these into these little sections right in here. This is one that's fighting me for some reason. Let's see. There we go. And the one thing I found that kind of works best for his hands here is to take the actual hand here and just kind of tuck it basically into the feet like that. So it basically like hangs over the feet. So we're going to do that on this one here. So you don't necessarily have to take these off, but they pop off pretty easily anyway. So basically that's the information for the hands here. It's basically like that. Then what we're going to do is take this section and bring it down, and then these will tab into here. And these are supposed to tab into here, but on mine they do not tab in. They'll just keep coming out, so I don't even try to tab that in. Just basically tab in the wing section here. Lined up with the tab on his arm here, which can be a little tricky to do. His hand just popped off. I'll deal with that in a second. The part about trying to get this tab in is the fact that this is rubbery, so it's kind of hard to get it to tab in right. When you have the real thin plastic where it's kind of almost rubbery, it's really hard to tab it in because you got to try to almost flex it in there. There we go. Go ahead and put his hands that fell off back in. So now I'll go ahead and take this section here and we'll fold into this. Go ahead and remove these things here. Of course, you could always do this and be like a cool like battle mode or something. You know, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to pop these off, and then this whole section here will split, and then bring these up. These little claw pieces will basically tab in right here, and then you tab these into here, which can be a little tricky because you got to make sure everything's lined up as it should be. Because if it's not, these won't tab in and won't roll correctly, which said is kind of tricky to do. Things don't really want to go like they're supposed to. Just kind of a lot of fiddling with it and trying to get things in the right position. Then what you do, you should be able to roll. So then we'll just take these little sections here and just peg them in these little holes here. And it does kind of look like those little things that stuck off there. Obviously there should be like a bunch more of those like right here, but I couldn't really do all that. And then these little things here, just kind of pull them back like that. And there we have Optimus Prime in his vehicle mode. Now I actually really like this vehicle mode. I mean, I liked the original with the kind of more of the actual like semi-truck, but this being that's this really cool looking like military vehicle, I honestly really like this vehicle from Optimus Prime, because it kind of almost gives like the similarity of his original G1 design, but then kind of almost like kind of basically makes it like more like military like, and I thought that was really cool. I honestly wish they would have actually used this vehicle a little more often, because I don't think he really even transformed much in the show. I think maybe it was like maybe 3 or 4 times he may have transformed in that whole season, because he's mostly in robot mode, and that's honestly a shame, because this is actually a really cool vehicle mode. But and of course, as far as painting goes, I really didn't do a lot in the vehicle mode. It's really that noticeable. I mean, a lot of it's the details you've already seen. I of course did put this little Autobot symbol right there in the front, and then just kind of painted in some of the little yellow for those, like the headlights and things. A little bit of silver right in there. Of course, you can see I took a little bit of that blue to kind of get into those little crevices there, and then of course some silver to kind of make it a little more, kind of pop a little more. Silver around here, silver there. And yeah, that's pretty much it for his actual like vehicle mode here. So we'll go ahead and bring in some comparisons here. Here he is with Ratchet and RC. Here he is with Bulkhead and Bumblebee. Here he is with his first version. Again, just because, here he is with animated Optimus Prime. And here he is with Megatron. Now to get Optimus Prime back into his robot mode, what we need to do is we need to remove these little pieces here. Go ahead and untab the wing section here. There goes his hands. Back on. Untab the wings. And I guess if you wanted to, which has really nothing to do with the show, but you can, I guess, do this. Once you untab the wings here, you can, I guess, put them like this. And now you can fly in the vehicle mode, which you never actually did, but you can still do it if you want to for some reason. So anyway, so go ahead and bring this whole section up, and bring down the feet here. And then we'll go ahead and untab his arms. Go ahead and display them like this. Of course, it reveals his head there. We'll go ahead and untab these sections. Take this whole section here, flip this around, and they will tab together. This whole section will just kind of dangle like that. Go ahead and bring his arms, and now he looks like he's like some sort of weird zombie. Anyway, so then do that, and then so you take his feet and put them back like this, and when we do that, it actually moves the heels into place. I don't know if that was actually intentional, but that does work like that. So go ahead and flip his feet up, untab his legs, go ahead and bring the entire leg section up like this. Whoops, piece came off. So then what we're going to do is we need to rotate the entire waist around. Go ahead and bring up his head. Then this whole section here will basically become the backpack, just going like that. Go ahead and bring his arms up, get them kind of out of our way here. And then go ahead and peg these into these little holes right here. So they will become his little thrusters for his jetpack. Then bring the whole backpack section down. And they do basically tab into these little grooves here. They don't actually like tab in, but they just kind of more or less just sit there and kind of hold into place, but it's not really like a secure connection, and it's kind of hard to get it there and actually line up where it'll kind of fit, but it'll just kind of sit there. Go ahead and bring these sections down. They'll have to kind of go like that in this little groove section, just like this. Then go ahead and rotate his hands around, flip down the thumb. Same with this one. Rotate around, flip down the thumb. So then we need to take these little sections here, kind of push them up so they kind of come right about to his head, so it kind of gives him a more show accurate look. And there we have Optimus Prime back into his robot mode. And like I said, I really like this design for Optimus. It's different, but it's also like different in a cool way. And like I said, I really wish they would have actually had this in the show a little more, because like you literally transform at least 3 or 4 times in the show when they actually had this mode, and that's a shame because this is a really cool design. So if you like this video, be sure to check out the description where you'll find a link to all of my future Transformers Prime Beast Hunters customs, along with a link that will take you to my Transformers Prime customs. There will also be a link that will take you to my stop motion channel, where I'm currently doing some random stop motions, but I'm hoping to have a stop motion series at some point, so be sure to check that out. And be sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any future customs. Until next time, this is Crash the Customizer, out.
So let me get this straight, Optimus. You told Smokescreen there is only a limited amount of energy in the forge to rebuild the Omega Lock, and he uses it to rebuild you?
So you are saying you'd rather had him let me die?
I didn't mean it like that. What I meant was, now we can't restore Cybertron.
Then we shall make Earth our new home.
A planet teeming with humans? No thank you.
There's just no pleasing some bots.